when you work with, say, a corporation around, they hire you around something for neurodiversity, what are some of the scope of services or engagements that it goes with in order to, someone's at point A, and they want to be at point B inside their strategic plan in 3, 2, 5 years or so?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it depends on the employer. So you'll get a lot of employers who are coming at it from a really good place to say, we want to be more neuro-inclusive. You know, we have a lot of folks here with autism and we're engineers and we want them to come forward. Can you make that work? And then there'll be some people saying, we have a lot of people here with problems because they're not following the team or they're not doing this and they would like help with that. And these things are a lot better than they used to be because, and I think this will make sense to a lot of, that we've inherited ideas. Like I have a Pacific learning difference or neurodiverse, right? I'm a dyslexic guy with ADHD. But at the same time, 20 years ago, this would be a disorder. And now it's not. 10 years ago, it's a Pacific learning difficulty. And now it's not. So it's changing. And with it, employers are trying to change. And so they're asking us, how do we do better to recognize that this thing shows up in different ways? And my job and my team's job is to get them really confident and excited about those differences and to recognize that this goodness is here, not despite autism or dyslexia or ADHD or so and so, but rather this goodness is here because of it. And then to recognize that it will show up differently for people of color, people who are migrants, people battling shame or childhood poverty, that there are some people who will be comfortable saying, this is my difference. Let me feel comfortable and tell you that at this workplace. And there will be others who just will hide it. And the only reason they will share it is because their job security is on the line. And the only reason they have to say it is because they've got a family to look after, or rent to pay, or their competency for the job is being questioned. And I guess my challenge to the world is to say, that is not a good reason to share neurodiverse conversations. That's just survival. So teaching companies to understand that, to recognize what is a psychological safety afforded to some people, and why is that not afforded to everybody, is the base of where their work should be.
Is that connected to, in the legal term, anticipatory duty?
Yeah, yeah.
So in that, Tony, and for non-UK listeners, we have the Equality Act, which is the main piece of legislation for protecting people with protected characteristics, which I can never remember them all, but race, gender, disability, sexuality, etc. Within disability comes some neurodiverse conditions. And as with other disabilities, there's a legal requirement to not only make reasonable adjustments, is the term, in the workplace or the school to accommodate those differences, but that's after the fact of them being disclosed. There should also be what they call an anticipatory duty, so that the environment is appropriate for different types of brains and bodies. But my experience in all workplaces is they do neither. So I think what diversity and ability does is a lot of education for the employers to even understand their basic statutory duties, yeah, which generally impact the most marginalized the most violently.
Yeah. And I put just to add to that is compliance. Every company wants to be compliant to the law, but compliance, I jokingly once said, look, compliance means you don't get sued, right? But it doesn't mean you include. And it's recognizing compliance by law doesn't change culture. It just says we are going to legislate and protect those who can prove they have got a protected characteristic. But again, going back to the psychological safety, not everyone wants to prove it. Not everyone wants to feel that emotionally vulnerable or dissected in order to keep their jobs. So the anticipatory duties in the Equalities Act. So it says to a big company, look, you employ 1,000 people, or you employ 10,000 people. You need to anticipate that people will hide differences. And it is your duty of care to recognize that they should not have to tell you everything. It's good if they do, and it's amazing if they feel safe, but it's your job to recognize that some people will hide things because of intersectional barriers that are already in their life. It could be race, it could be sexual agenda, it could be poverty. At DNA, we call it the anticipatory welcome. So it's teaching directors and leaders and thought leaders and HR leaders. It's not your job to be psychic, but it is your job to create a culture of informed practice. It is your job to be curious about universal design thinking. It is your job to be humbled when people share their experiences and do the emotional labor with you. But above all those things, it's your job to create an anticipatory welcome and recognize why some people just will hide things because they simply have to.